So last time we were talking about how to begin dumpster diving. I want to touch a little bit on getting food out of dumpsters. I know that's not for everybody. I do it. I haven't died. I'm very careful. I'm not just eating anything. But yes, you want to get stuff that's cold, but it doesn't have to be ice cold. And yes, you have to be careful, but think about it logically for a second. You have a gallon of milk in your refrigerator. You take it out. You pour milk for your breakfast cereal. Maybe your kids do. That's a good one. Your kids pull it out. They have breakfast cereal. They leave it on the counter. You come back 3 hours later, and nobody's put it away. It is still sitting on the counter. Do you automatically dump it down the drain? Like 90% of you, I know, don't. You don't dump it down the drain because it's been sitting on the counter for 3 hours. You pick it up and you put it back in the fridge. It's that same concept is when you pick a gallon of milk up out of a dumpster and you put your hand to it and you feel it and you're like, this is definitely not warm. It's not refrigerator cold, but it is definitely not warm. This is the equivalent of leaving your milk on the counter for several hours. Now, if it's really warm, if it's 100 degrees and that milk does not feel cold to your hand at all, I wouldn't touch it. And the opposite is true. If it's been 60 degrees or 50 degrees and you put your hand and it feels iffy, I probably wouldn't pick it up because compared to the air temperature and the temperature of your hand, it needs to feel colder than your hand, right? And if it's been cool, you expect it to stay cool longer. So if it's been 50 degrees in your area and you have a gallon of milk that feels the same temperature as your hand, something's not right. It should feel cooler than your hand if it has been sitting in a dumpster for less than 3 hours. And so that is sort of how I judge things. Is I look at it logically. Is if this was in my home, how would I react to just seeing my milk left on the counter? I leave my butter on the counter for days. Okay, we go through butter, so it's never there for more than 3 days. But I don't put my butter in the refrigerator when I'm using it. No, I keep it frozen, actually. For long-term storage, my butter goes in the freezer. But butter is so hard. Like margarine, I don't eat margarine, but when we did, we keep it in the refrigerator because it's so soft that it just doesn't stand up to being on the counter. It just melts. But I know a lot of people keep their margarine and their butter on the counter for several days. So if you go into a dumpster and there is butter there, keep that in mind. Is if you reach out and touch it and it's soft but not melty, like I've come across butter that's almost turning liquid. Like, no, it's been a little warm for me to pick that up. But if you pick it up and you can still pick it up and it feels solid, but it's definitely room temperature, sniff it. Butter that has gone bad has a particular odor. And I would say that with anything. Anything that has gone bad has a particular odor to it. And that's a really good sign. Your nose is a really good indicator that something is off. All right, hang on. We are at a blessing box. I've got a bunch of stuff that I found. And I am going to fill up this blessing box. Okay, this is at a church. I just want to show you what I'm doing. I just put this stuff up here. Lice killing shampoo. This is a bunch of stuff that I found. So the thing about finding medicines such as this is they don't go bad the second they reach their sell-by date. Is their efficiency, it's not a word, their effectiveness, efficiency I was trying to get efficiency and effective in the same sentence. Their effectiveness diminishes. So these are still good, they are still usable, and I am putting them out here for people who need them. So we were talking about getting food out of the dumpsters. I don't remember where I left off. I stopped at the blessing box to fill that up, and then my phone holder failed a couple of times, and so I have lost track. But let's talk about getting fruits and vegetables out of the dumpster. I find a lot of onions, a lot of potatoes. You just stick them in onions, you peel, and so you just peel off the outer layer, and the under layer is fine. You can I scrub my potatoes before I put them into the storage. I find apples all the time, bananas. Everything can be washed or peeled, and you get down to the good stuff. You can cut off bruises. There's a few times when I found berries. That's the hard one. Okay, strawberries, blackberries, blueberries. I do see those a lot, but you get the top layer looks fine, but the bottom layer is all moldy. That's what I find. And they never last more than a day. I mean, the strawberries never last more than a day, no matter what. But they really don't last long. You put them in your fridge, and suddenly they're gone, because that's why they were thrown out in the first place. So I really have to be careful about what's in there. Do they look okay? I wash them off, process them immediately. That is my advice on getting berries. Wash them, process them immediately, because they're not going to last. They will last even less than they usually do. But there's really nothing wrong with fruits and vegetables, in the dumpster. It can be washed, it can be peeled. It may not be pretty, but you can cut the bruise out of an apple. You can cut the bruise out of a banana. You can take bananas and zucchini. I've found a lot of apples and a lot of zucchini. A lot of zucchini, and that can be grated. I grate it and put it in the freezer. I know a lot of people make zucchini bread. I'm not a baker. I like baked goods. I'm not very successful at it, let's just say. But I put zucchini in all of my pasta dishes. Cut it up into slices and freeze it. I found 4 heads of cauliflower the other day, and I processed that and put it in bags in my freezer. So now I have a lot of vegetables in my freezer for the winter when we're flying them in from Chile. That's a popular place to import vegetables from when it is winter in the northern hemisphere. So I would say just grab all the fruit and vegetables. It's fine. I don't find as much bread here as I did in Denver. There was a dumpster. I tell everyone about this, so they're probably not even doing it anymore. Go Puff dumpster, and that was on Yale and University. By the pallet load, by the box. They would literally throw out brand new boxes of bread, and the day before I left, I swear to the true story, the day before I left, they had an entire pallet of bread and bread product, whole wheat bread, white bread, dinner rolls, hamburger buns, like that kind of thing. I know I shouldn't be calling these people out by name, but I'm going to anyway, because I used to get all of my fresh fruits, vegetables, bread. They filled my fridge so many times. Juices. Anyway, that's a good place to look. I always look at bread. If I see one spot of mold on a loaf of bread, I'm not saving it. I am not saving it. There's no way to tell if it's on the red. I just don't. Any spot of mold on anything, but bread particularly. Sometimes I'll pick something up, there's a giant bruise with a little spot of mold on that apple. Well, I can cut that apple in half and save the other half. If you don't want to, that's fine. You think it's gross, I don't care. Really, I don't care. If you think I'm gross and eating out of dumpsters is going to kill me one day, I'm going to die fat and happy. So, you can leave your comment. It's not going to hurt my feelings. But I'm very careful about bread, because I can't tell if it's spread through. I'm just not going to deal mold. There's always more mold than you think it is. You see the spot, but it's a little fingers way down into the bread, and I'm not going to deal with that. But I do, and I get less bread here in South Carolina. Rarely, actually, now that I think about it. I rarely get bread. There's one place that I go, and both the employees and another dumpster diver like to take the bread and dump it out for the ducks that are in the creek nearby. So I've tried going at different times of day to get there so I can get the bread. It has not worked so far. I've been here since like 6 months, I've gotten one package of hamburger buns. Even though I have seen 7 loaves of bread dumped out, I never get there in time to save it. So I'm thinking it's not only the other dumpster diver, because I've seen her do it. And I said, hey, I need that bread. Don't do that. Because I deliver to people. I mean, not just the blessing boxes. I have people that I take my food to, that I deliver to. Sorry, my brain freeze. So I have people that can't get out of their homes for some reason. They don't have a car. Their car doesn't work. Whatever. And I will deliver food to them. And I like delivering bread to them. Because, one of those necessary things for sandwiches. So I asked her not to do it, and she does it anyway. And then I discovered on days that she wasn't coming, that it was still being left out, which tells me it's probably the employees. Because no matter what time I come, the bread is always dumped out, which is interesting. Anyway, those are things you have to look for.